obviously part of the abstract series, and it's obviously based on a religious theme. I've been reading some articles about the nature of Christ. Oh, was he married really? Was he really crucified? Was he, all this type of stuff that you can read nowadays. All of this, partly the same as the Dead Sea Scrolls see, the idea of what actually happened when we look at things rather than the myths and the other types of things. Because actually something really happened, but we can't for sure say. So it's sort of like faith versus wondering, or being not so sure. This is a not so sure painting. It's saying, what is the nature of Christ? And being a complete egotist, I decided that, well, I'm an artist, so therefore, he didn't do any artwork. Never says anything in there about him doing a painting or something like that. So the title is, The Savior is an Artist, the Artist is a Savior. And it's based on two I'm going to go on a little bit with this one.
Sure.
It's based on, some of my work has a lot of shall we say, a lot of layers of meaning. This one has, first of all, there's a whole pile of Greek writing in there, which my Greek friend from Mickey Nose came and read, which was kind of nice. I made, it's the name of all the gods and goddesses that were from ancient Greece. And so, okay, there were many, quote, gods. It's an obvious crucifixion scene, and I don't know if you've seen much art, but there's an awful lot of crucifixions done. This one's different to me. As somebody told me the other day, they said, this is the first one I've ever seen that really interests me. If it was hanging in a church that I went to, I would find that would be an interesting church for me to go to. And I thought that was one of the best compliments I had in a long time. At any rate, it has my handprints on there, and then one of the young ladies who came but has since had to leave was an artist. She came over, and just when I was doing this, and so the small hands are hers. And we just did handprints with stuff, pieces of paper glued on here, rigid grids, the secret little writings. One of my students said, I came when you were doing this and you were dancing around the painting on the floor and throwing paint at it. And I said, okay, so there you go. So this is the Savior as an artist, sort of, gee, what was he really like? How creative? He was a carpenter. The other thing was the artist as a savior, and this was related to a book called The Shock of the New. And in that, the artist, or the writer, talks about how artists really believed they could save the world. And particularly after the First World War, there were movements in art, the Bauhaus and so on, that were saying, we're going to redesign the world. The Surrealists and the Dadists got going and said, we're going to work in such a way as to change the world and make a difference. And then they opened up Buchenwald, concentration camps and all of this, and they realized artists are completely unable to change anything. They cannot change human nature. They have no power. And hence you ended up with abstract expressionism and a feeling of, we're just going to throw paint and forget about it, and we have no control. We're just going to do our art, and we can't change the world. So this is the artist as a savior. So I've got both things going on in this. Now, of course, Candace has not read anything I said about these things. We never discussed them. So she looks at it from a completely different point of view. She looks at it raw and new, without any idea of what I said, as would anybody. I mean, I'm telling you where I got. That doesn't mean that you have that reaction. In any artwork, you have your own reaction. It doesn't matter what I came from. And so Candace has her reaction, and this is kind of cool. So you've actually written 2 poems about this one.
Yeah, the first one I wrote as a villanelle to go into a book of villanelles, and
Then when I looked at it a second time, I just saw so much more in it, because a villanelle is only 19 lines, and it's got a certain strict rhyme scheme that doesn't let you do some of the things you want to do. This, I can do what I want to do. So, the artist as a the savior as an artist. The artist as a savior in splashes of red and gold invisibly exchanges time and space with the savior as an artist, slipping through a clear blue window in the blood. Abstractions of emotion wound the atmosphere and paint laments across the face of destiny. There is a hollow, sorrowful, unuttered moan trapped in the throat of sacrosanct knowledge. This scathing travesty of mind, matter, and spirit unwraps, disrobes, and displays a tainted tribulation of decades and centuries past, and the sin we cannot hide. A silent visual recording of the naked lamb laid slain, innocence forever lost, drowned in the tears of time. In the ethereal exchange of artist and savior, blood on the brush and the brushing of blood, a sacred grace creeps through blood, sweat, and tears, spilled from the fingerprints of eternal redemption. An albatross shadow unwittingly crosses an angel's face. Scarlet teardrops, stained and scarred with innocent blood, fall from heaven's soul and shake the foundations of hell for the sake of the Savior, the artist, mankind. Wrapped in a silent prayer and kissed by an angel's lips, the painting and the painter are interlaced forever. The artist as a savior as an artist.